Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. Yes, President Ronald Reagan was shot on March 30, 1981, in an assassination attempt outside the Washington Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. The shooter, John Hinckley Jr., fired 6 shots, striking Reagan in the chest. A bullet lodged near his lung, but he survived after surgery. Others injured in the attack included Press Secretary James Brady, who was permanently disabled; Police Officer Thomas Delahanty, who was shot in the neck; Secret Service Agent Tim McCarthy, who was shot in the abdomen while shielding Reagan. Hinckley claimed he attempted the assassination to impress actress Jodie Foster. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity and spent decades in psychiatric care before being released in 2016. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel. The assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan, March 30, 1981. On March 30, 1981, just 69 days into his presidency, Ronald Reagan was leaving the Washington Hilton Hotel after giving a speech. As he walked toward his limousine, John Hinckley Jr. fired 6 shots from a .22 caliber RG-14 revolver. Here's what happened in seconds. First shot missed Reagan but hit Press Secretary James Brady in the head, leaving him permanently disabled. Second shot hit Officer Thomas Delahanty in the neck. Third shot hit Secret Service Agent Tim McCarthy in the abdomen as he shielded Reagan. Sixth shot ricocheted off the limousine and struck Reagan under his left arm, lodging in his lung just an inch from his heart. Reagan's condition and recovery. At first, Reagan did not realize he had been shot. He thought a Secret Service agent had pushed him into the car. But he soon felt chest pain and started coughing up blood. The motorcade rushed to George Washington University Hospital. Doctors performed emergency surgery, and Reagan was conscious throughout. He even joked with the medical staff, to the surgeons, "I hope you're all Republicans." To his wife, Nancy, "Honey, I forgot to duck." He made a remarkably quick recovery, leaving the hospital on April 11, 1981. The shooter, John Hinckley Jr. Hinckley's motive was bizarre. He wanted to impress actress Jodie Foster, whom he was obsessed with after watching Taxi Driver. He had written her letters and believed killing Reagan would win her attention. During his trial, Hinckley was found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed to a psychiatric hospital. He remained under psychiatric care for decades and was released in 2016 under strict conditions. How the assassination attempt shaped Reagan's presidency and legacy. The March 30, 1981, assassination attempt had a lasting impact on Ronald Reagan's presidency, policies, and public perception. 1. Reagan's image as a fighter. Reagan's survival at age 70 made him seem invincible, reinforcing his image as a strong, resilient leader. His quick recovery and humor won over the American public, and his approval rating soared to 73%, the highest of his presidency. His near-death experience also gave him a deeper sense of purpose, which he later described as a divine mission. He believed that God spared him for a reason, which influenced his policies. 2. His push for a tougher stance on the Soviet Union. Before the shooting, Reagan had been cautious in dealing with the Soviet Union. After the attack, he became more aggressive, believing he had a renewed purpose to fight communism. 1983, he called the Soviet Union an evil empire. 1984, he pushed for massive increases in U.S. military spending to challenge Soviet power. 1987, he urged Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down this wall, referring to the Berlin Wall. Some historians believe that his survival strengthened his resolve to win the Cold War. 3. His domestic policies and the Reagan Revolution. Reagan came into office promising big economic changes. The assassination attempt gave him even more political momentum to push his agenda. 1981, he pushed through the largest tax cut in U.S. history at the time. 1982, he survived an economic downturn and stuck to his policies, refusing to raise taxes significantly. 1983 to 1984, the economy boomed, and Reagan was re-elected in a landslide in 1984. 4. A more personal and reflective Reagan. After the shooting, Reagan became more religious and introspective. In his autobiography, he wrote that he felt he had been saved for a reason. He began writing personal letters to everyday Americans, something he continued throughout his presidency. He became more open about his faith, often talking about prayer and God's role in his life. He grew closer to his wife, Nancy, who became his fiercest protector. She even consulted an astrologer to plan his public appearances, fearing another attack. 5. His legacy and later years. Reagan served 2 full terms, leaving office in 1989 as one of the most popular presidents in modern history. He was credited with helping end the Cold War. His policies reshaped taxation, government spending, and military strategy. In 1994, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and he largely withdrew from public life. He passed away on June 5, 2004, at the age of 93. The 1981 shooting was a defining moment in his life, shaping his presidency, his faith, and his leadership style. Aftermath of the Reagan assassination attempt. Reagan's road to recovery. After being shot on March 30, 1981, Reagan spent 12 days in the hospital, showing remarkable resilience for a 70-year-old man. His quick recovery and sense of humor made him even more popular with the American public. April 11, 1981, he was discharged from George Washington University Hospital. April 28, 1981, he made his first public appearance before Congress, giving a speech that received a standing ovation. May 3, 1981, he returned to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, joking, "If I had this much applause before, I never would have been shot." Reagan's approval rating skyrocketed after the shooting, reaching 73%, the highest of his presidency. James Brady's fight for gun control. Press Secretary James Brady, who was shot in the head and left partially paralyzed, became a leading advocate for gun control. 1993, Congress passed the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, requiring background checks on gun buyers. 2014, Brady's death was ruled a homicide because it resulted from his 1981 injuries, 33 years later. John Hinckley Jr. Hinckley was found not guilty by reason of insanity in 1982 and spent more than 3 decades in a psychiatric hospital. Over time, he was granted more freedoms, including visits outside the hospital. 2016, he was fully released with strict conditions. 2022, a judge granted him unconditional freedom, sparking controversy. Gun control. The attack led to the Brady Bill, 1993, requiring background checks for gun purchases, named after James Brady. Presidential security. The Secret Service tightened protection procedures, including better armored limousines and increased surveillance of potential threats. Reagan's popularity. His recovery boosted his image as a strong leader, and his approval ratings soared. Jodie Foster. In October 1995, the incident was a traumatic experience for the 18-year-old Foster, who was hounded by the media and paparazzi in its aftermath. She took a semester off at Yale and had to be escorted by a bodyguard everywhere she went. This event produced other stalkers for her, including a 22-year-old man named Edward Michael Richardson, who according to the Secret Service shared a similar obsession with Foster and carried a loaded handgun planning to kill her, but changed his mind after watching her perform in a college play. Hinckley demanded that Foster testified at his trial. Agreement was reached between Foster's and Hinckley lawyers that she would do so in a closed session, with only herself, the judge, Barrington D. Parker, lawyers and Hinckley present.